Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another review. Yep, I'm doing another review because I just got a new figure in the mail right this second, and I've been looking forward to this one. At last, I finally have a Mattel Triceratops, which means I have one that is actually a decent size. Even if it seems kind of small when compared to the T-Rex, like, I'll do that comparison later on. I got a lot of things to compare Trike to. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the figure. First up, I want to say I really like the color scheme. It's like not on camera. Like, on camera it looks way more green. But in real life, it's actually more like orange with like a, sort of like a dark blue on it. Or like green. Then it's got like something like spray painted onto the back of the leg, which is neat detail. But I mean, the underbelly isn't painted, which really sucks. Oh, but all the horns are painted, even if mine have some wear and tear, and you'll see that later on. The beak's painted, the eye's painted. You got a ring around the eye. You get some like wash on the crest. Then you get just like a slightly different color for all the limbs, and you could probably tell my Triceratops has super loose legs, which is fine because in reality this thing's on all fours, so even with loose limbs it's not gonna have a problem standing. Unlike with the Albertosaurus, who is very loose and might not even stand later on. So, look at all that detail. Look at it all. Of course, there's the button, and I'll go over the features later. You like a nice roll right here, like rhinos have. You get like slash marks on the bottom. You get a decently long tail. You get the like extremely large back legs. Then this whole thing kind of looks like a real animal, except for when you get to the head, or not real, I guess living animal. There you go. And then you get that, for one, that crest and those horns, but you also get the beak. And I'm okay with his mouth not opening, actually. Like, I'm actually fine with that. Turn around, you can see kind of a high spine appearance, like Acrocanthosaurus. Then you just got so much detail, even extremely large scales. It's just great. Like, this definitely beats out what I reviewed last time, the Tarbosaurus, even if its bottom jaw looked amazing. One problem, though, I would like to point out with mine. Yeah, you can definitely see it on camera. My horns look a bit crooked, and if you see the head moving, that's just because the head's actually really loose. It actually helps with the action feature. But it's just, my horns are a bit crooked, and they've also already lost some paint, and probably because I bought it used. But that's okay, because I actually managed to get this at a cheaper price, and it still holds up very well. Especially since it still works. So let's get really close. Actually, let's do this. Okay guys, we're just recording here. You can't even see anything, because it's just pressed against the box, the camera. But the sound chamber on my phone is not covered, so you should be able to hear this. So, roar number 1. Like, that's the only one I'll complain about, because you can clearly hear Tyrannosaurus Rex there. But to be honest, I'm kind of okay with that, considering that those two are rivals, after all. Now that's good. I really like that one, because you get like a few stomps and then a growl. Okay, we're back to that one. There you go. Just like a general growl. And of course, you push down here, push back here, and the head actually moves when you do it. so cool though, especially with how loose the head is. Like you get that really nice bucking motion with it. But also, here's Sarco for comparison, considering that they're both on 4 legs. If you like stab Sarco, then the head actually moves on its own. You can actually tell it's quite a bit squeaky. But that's like really good because you get some like that, just like that extra movement. As far as proportions go, he is great. Like I really don't see anything wrong with the proportions. Like, I think he's great there. Color scheme, great. And once again, just getting close up on all that detail. Look at it, it's even on the back. I just don't like this like clearest thing for the action feature. Like you can clearly see that. That's really the only negative about it though. It's just there's so much detail. Like as far as the figures I've collected, this has to be like one of the best. And easily maybe the best Triceratops figure we've ever had from the line. Like, I think I may like this more than the Kenner one, just because you get that... Just that really loose head that gives it, like, a good motion. And you also get the legs, which you can actually move, and a sound effect. So overall, I would actually say this guy is better than the original Kenner model. Looks great, but the only problem, and this is notable on these figures, once again, they fail to paint, like, what do you call those? Because they're not claws. I guess just like nails, but that's really weird. Like, what would you call those? But in reality, they're extremely small, so on this one, I can see why. Besides, you even get all the, like, little horns that are painted, and you get some, like, paint around the eye. You can see there's also kind of a striping effect there. The beak's painted, the horns painted. The horns do have a little bit of overspill, but it's really not that noticeable. It actually looks really good. Alright guys, now for comparisons, and you can... Whoa. I've set you up like that many times and you haven't fallen over. Well, let me give him the stand. There you go. Allosaurus. And they're actually both from the same line. And from the same wave, now I think about it. And so both of them have sound effects. Now for which one is better? It's really a close race between these two. But I'm kind of leaning towards Triceratops because this way, this thing ain't gonna fall over like any. This one, like the Allosaurus, I've actually seen people having balancing issues with it. And that's probably because the tail is actually really short. And it's also quite thin. So, like, balancing issues are notable for this figure. Mine doesn't have them, thankfully. But you also got just, like, all the scarring on it that I don't really like. So, as far as which one's better, get this one. Ceratosaurus, also from the Roarvors line. Fortunately, he doesn't work. Yeah. Balance. And yeah, you can see, I've been attempting to paint the claws since Mattel never does that. I've even had to, like, attempt to paint the nails on the feet. But yeah, for this one's easy, because this guy had lots of T-Rex sound effects, so if you happen to have the same amount of money, you can only get one, definitely get this. Because for one, this guy has a ton of balancing issues. And this time it's because his feet are atrociously small. The sound effects aren't the best. And the claws weren't painted. Which, on the hands, it's understandable. Feet, they could have really done it. Here's the Baryonyx from the Battle Damage playset that I got. And he was actually a Roarvor. But this is the kind that isn't. You can see it doesn't have any chamber for the sound to come out. But as far as these two, it's a close race again, but I believe the original Baryonyx had its toe claws painted, so what happened to that? And also it had like the colors running all the way up the neck. So yeah, this is definitely showing some signs of cheapness. But as far as sculpt goes, like, they're really comparable. Like, I'd say these two are definitely play compatible. Like, I'd say, not that one yet. Ceratosaurus, Allosaurus, and Baryonyx are all play compatible. But it's just, if you happen to have the same amount of money, I would prefer for you to get one or the other. This, I think I'm gonna call it a tie for this one. Man, oh, I was about to say, how are you standing? Because you're leaning to the side. How are you standing right now? Whoop, never mind. Alright guys, I'm gonna attempt to do this with the Metrocanthosaurus not wanting to stand on this. But yeah, these two are also from the same Roarivores wave. And they're also both from the same line. It's just Metrocanthosaurus, once again, he doesn't work. The foot slipped. But yeah, as far as which one I would rather you buy, I mean, we've never had a Metrocanthosaurus in the Jurassic Park series before, ever. Like, this is the first figure of Metrocanthosaurus that we were given. And it's really good. So, for this one, I'm also going to have to call it a tie, because they only really made one other of these, and it was just a repaint of this. So, I'd say, for these two, it's a tie, and they're definitely play compatible. Crocodilian Sarcosuchus, considering that they're both on 4 legs, yeah, I'd say this is definitely play compatible. Like, this Sarco is just like one of Mattel's best figures. Velociraptor Delta, I'd say these two are play compatible. Of course, for these two, you're not going to have the same amount of money. But yeah, these two are 100% play compatible. Like, you can definitely some fights between these two. And guys, here is the Ripoff pack, Jurassic Park 3 Triceratops, which I got from Jurassic Quest. And you see, this one is kind of small compared to it. But I'd say these two are still really play compatible, because, like, they look, as far as the design as far as their design goes, they are extremely similar. It's just the paint jobs are different. However, I would actually say, as far as the head goes, this head is actually better because it's got lots of detailing, but the mouth is actually open, which is actually better than this. So that's really one of the only weaknesses of this thing, though. We're gonna give it a rating, and it's gonna get really high rating. And this one also has like a feature because of the way that head moves. Only now you could do that with a button and you get a sound effect. And sorry guys, I do not have the Sinoceratops or the Pachyrhinosaurus, which, an interesting story. Apparently, for some reason, Mattel mixed those two dinosaurs up. Like, they released what was called the Sinoceratops in the packaging and everything, but the anatomy of it was actually the Pachyrhinosaurus. Like, it was just actually a different dinosaur altogether. And then when they released the Sinoceratops, which I believe they have, I'll search on eBay again later, they named it the Pachyrhinosaurus, which is really strange. I don't know why they did that. But for now, since we don't have either of those two, Protoceratops. And the Protoceratops is kind of long-legged. Like, it's kind of weird. Still, I really love these figures, because this is, in real life, Velociraptor's arch nemesis. And it's wonderful to get that. And it's also good to get another Ceratopsian, especially one this small. So I'd say they're definitely play compatible. And guys, this one was an obvious one. Triceratops versus T-Rex. And this looks really good. Like, with the battle damage T-Rex, which I painted to be the Jurassic Park 3 T-Rex. Like, this looks really good, because, like, this is actually quite in scale. Just Triceratops looks just a tad bit small. Just a tad. Like, this is almost perfect. I love this. Yet these two, definitely, play compatible. And here's the star herself, Rexy. And you can see Triceratops actually scales worse with her. And that's because she is just ginormous. Like, she's really just huge. And so she doesn't really scale well with the Triceratops. Unlike the battle damage T-Rex, which scales wonderfully. So if you wanted to get one that was more in scale with Triceratops, I definitely wouldn't recommend this one. I would have to recommend the battle damage T-Rex, because that one's a bit smaller, and it just works better as far as like a diorama goes. So final thoughts. What am I gonna give it as far as a rating? Well, I gotta say, I think I'm gonna give it a solid 10 out of 10. Because I really don't have any major complaints about this one. Like, I think this may be one of the best out of all of the Mattel lines. Because the sculpt is wonderful. The action features are great. You get decent articulation for what it is, which, come on, you gotta expect, like, for only the legs to move, kinda. I mean, I guess the head counts, but, yeah. Sound effects are great. It's just the final one is a bit odd. But then again, to me, it's not that odd. I can get over it. I really love the paint job. I just gotta give this. I gotta give this a solid 10 out of 10. Like, I think this may be one of the best figures, like one of the best newest figures I've picked up.